Don't be so shy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2022 Power of Africa Conference. My name is Luati Lenkala, and I'm from a country called Botswana. I'm the co founder in a telemedicine platform called Doctors E Consult. We are basically making it easier for chronic patients to access their health specialists from wherever they are in the country. So, a lot of us have been hearing about plastic surgery. We've seen about it on TV, and we've seen a lot of women doing it, right? So we have today somebody who's famously known for saying reconstructive surgery is so much more than what we see on TV. We have Dr. Bruce Lelala with us.
Hi, Latile. Thank you
Hi,
for having
Dr.
me. My name is Dr. Bruce Lelala. I am based in South Africa, Johannesburg, and I did my training in Cape Town, UCT.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. You know, I've actually just been telling our viewers that something that you said really resonated with me. You said reconstructive surgery is so much more than what we see on TV. So I just want you to give the viewers a brief background. Who is Dr. Bruce Lelala?
Well, Dr. Bruce Lelala is a South African born plastic surgeon. I was born in a small town in Matatiele, in the Eastern Cape, and I did my undergraduate training in KZN. And then afterwards, I did my internship, my community service around South Africa, and then I did my postgraduate studies at Cape Town UCT. So, yes, I'm currently one of the very few black plastic surgeons in our country, and yes, that's who I am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. I honestly think you're downplaying it. You know, if you just go on the internet, search who Dr. Bruce is, he has done amazing things. He has done amazing things. I actually saw the one of the works that you did where you separated twins. You were part of that group, and I think you're doing amazing things in South Africa, right? So tell us, what inspired you to actually go into this path of plastic and reconstructive surgery?
Well, I think my journey started after I got exposed from the work that was done by in our country by a foundation called Smile Foundation, where plastic surgeons go around the country, on missions, fixing babies who are born with congenital malformation, especially cleft lips and palates. So at the time, this was around 2010. At the time, I used to work for a private company, and it so happened that the company used to be one of the sponsors for the Smile missions. So I was one of the representatives for the company in that particular mission. So after I saw what plastic surgeons can do for babies who are born with congenital malformations, my life changed. My life changed that week, and I never looked back. So I came back and I told my boss, I think I've found my calling, and this is what I want to do. So a few months down the line, I resigned and I started my journey in plastics. I applied for a medical officer post in Johannesburg, and then a year later, I got a post in Cape Town under general surgery, and then 2.5 years later, I got accepted into plastics. And when I did my research at the time, I noted that probably out of 110 plastic surgeons that were qualified in our country, only a handful were Black African plastic surgeons. And I told myself that this cannot be, with our country and our continent that has predominantly Black African people. We cannot have only a handful of plastic surgeons that are servicing our population. So from then, I raised my hand and I said, you know what, I need to be part of the change, and I need to be I need to be a plastic surgeon and contribute towards changing the lives of our people. So that's where I got my inspiration to become a plastic surgeon.
Right. That's so inspiring, right? Because a lot of us, I think, the perspective that or the perception we have about plastic surgery is it's more of what we see on TV. Like something you once said, it's more what we see on TV where people do it for beauty purposes, right? So now you're here telling us that it's changing the game for these kids, it's changing the game for so many people, right? And I think that's so inspirational. And something that I picked out that stood out for me is you said you are one of the few or the second Black South African to actually have this certification or this career path, right? So I just wanted to find out, how does that feel? How does that feel? You were the second South African to qualify as a plastic and reconstructive surgeon at the University of Cape Town. How does that feel?
Well, uh, it's mixed emotions. On one hand, it's an emotion of a great achievement that I managed to do, and it's one of the best things that I've done for my career. And then on the other hand, I must say it was not an easy journey. It was a long journey full of challenges and many challenges, if I may add. Um, and it saddens me that in 2020 we still 2022 we still have only two black plastic surgeons who qualified out of Cape Town, out of UCT. It shouldn't be that way. Um, but I think also it reflects back historically where this specialty was predominantly viewed as a specialty for the elite, and there was no exposure to for example, for me, I only got exposure through that mission into plastics. As an undergraduate, I never had that exposure, and it's this till today. It's still the same story throughout the African continent. You know, as undergraduate or as people who are aspiring to become plastic surgeon, we don't have exposure to it except what you see on TV, where it's all about the glamour and the beauty, and plastics. It's not about that. Probably the cosmetic part is only probably 10 or 15% of what plastic surgeons do. Most of our work is it's reconstructive surgery. We deal with patients who've had major cancers. We deal with patients who've had um, major traumas, burns, who are born with congenital malformations, who have defects from severe trauma or cancer, dissections. So, the specialty is it's a huge specialty, but like I had said, that historically it has been viewed as a specialty of for the elite, and I was told through my journey that I will never get into UCT, um, but I persevered. I persevered. I told myself that I want to train in the best institution, and I want to be, one of the best plastic surgeons that UCT has ever produced, and I achieved that. So to answer your question, yes, it is it is a great feeling of achievement, and also hopefully I will be an inspiration to the young ones that this can be done. It can be done.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. That's really, really inspiring. I mean, only two plastic surgeons. That's and I'm just picking my brain, and I'm wondering, could it have an effect? The fact that maybe there's not much of a market for plastic surgery in Africa, or is it more like what you're saying? The fact that during the upbringing, we're told that it's more of the elite, it's for the elite, or could this be predominantly joined to the fact that as Africans, we don't really believe in this. There's not much of a market for it, or maybe there's not much of competitive salaries from a doctor perspective. Could some of these factors actually hinder people from going into this field?
Well, that is the perception that there might be not enough work for plastic surgeons, but that is a wrong perception. The work is enormous, and there is work for everyone. So I think we need to change that perception and also change uh, what is portrayed on TV, that plastics is only about cosmetics. No, we play a major role into many disciplines within medicine. Within medicine, I mean, we work with neurosurgeons, ophthalmologists, ENT surgeons. Every specialty needs a plastic surgeon for reconstruction. So we work with numerous disciplines, orthopedic surgeons for patients who've had major trauma for lower limb reconstructions, a breast surgeon for breast cancer reconstruction. So the work is it's enormous. It's actually overwhelming, and we do need more specialists in our field. So that is, yes, to answer you, that is a wrong perception, and I think we need to change that.
Okay, yes, that absolutely makes sense. I kind of get it. And then another question that I would probably have is on the salary aspect. A lot of us, when we go into a career path, we are trying to look for something that would bring returns, right? So comparing Africa to perhaps the United States or, those countries that side, would you say that the salary is as competitive as that side?
Well, yes. Yes, definitely. Well, the salaries are definitely different. I mean, the first world countries, they earn much more than we do. Um, but what I want to say regarding that, for me, it's not about, it's not about the money. It's about what we can do to change our African continent. It's what about we can offer our people in the African continent. Yes, you can pack your bags and go to the first world country and and earn as much money as you can. But where is the job satisfaction? For me, Africa is my home. That's where my heart is, and that's where I can see where the change is needed. And and for me, I think fulfillment from what you do, that and the change that you can see, the impact that you can have towards your communities and your people, I think for me that is more fulfilling than 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 money. So, and also in terms of resources and equipments and facilities, yes, the first world, they are far advanced than we are. But don't forget that Africa produces the best doctors in the world, one of the best doctors in the world, and hence that is why we are pushed by every other country in the continent, because Africa produces the best doctors in the world. So for me, there is a lot of talent in our continent, and it saddens me to see how the continent is losing, um, these talented people because of funding, and also because of lack of appreciation. I think, we are not appreciated at times by our government, or our work is not viewed as important, and sadly, people tend to leave because you're not remunerated appropriately, or the working conditions are not conducive, and then people end up going to the first world.
You speak so passionately about reconstructive surgery. It's so heartwarming. So just want to know, how long have you been in this industry? How long have you been doing reconstructive surgeries for?
Well, like I said, my journey started in 2013, in the field of plastics, and then I had to go through general surgery. I had to apply for, be on a waiting list and apply for a post to be available. And then finally in 2015, I got accepted by Cape Town. And then in 2019, I qualified as a plastic surgeon in the country. And then recently, I've completed a fellowship in microsurgery and breast oncoplastic surgery in the United Kingdom. And as we speak, I'm the only black African plastic surgeon with this type of fellowship in our country.
Wow. That's so beautiful, Dr. Lilala. As you're speaking, I'm prompted to ask you about some of your success stories, so that people actually understand that plastic surgery is not just about the beauty aspect, right? So I'll just ask you to just maybe narrate to us a few of your success stories that you felt were so close to your heart as you did them.
Well, Yo, there are so many to count, but I will just highlight a few. Um, I'm part of the organization Operation Smile. I'm one of the few credentialed cleft surgeons for the organization from Africa, and I tend to go to many parts of Africa, helping out patients who are born with congenital malformations. And I remember this other time I was in Kwailamani, north of Mozambique, and I operated this patient who was in her late 50s, and she's lived her whole life being isolated from the community because it was viewed as a curse. She had a cleft lip and a palate. And for her, her life, her whole life, she was being isolated. And then we finally did her operation in her late 50s. And then the following week, when she came for her follow-up review, she brought me a basket of fruits. And then she said, I have nothing, but this is all I have to say thank you for really changing my life. And that really touched me, that for us, we take it for granted that it's a skill that I've trained to do, but the impact that you have on someone's life, it's really enormous. And also the like you mentioned, the twin separation that we did in Cape Town. It was one of the first operations of that kind that we did in Cape Town. And it was a great honor to be part of that. And also, patients who have so many stories of patients who've had breast cancer and they've battled with this condition, and then at the end of it, I'm able to create them a normal looking breast, which goes a long way for a female, for their psychological well-being, and also for their holistic well-being. To have a normal looking breast after you've gone through that whole ordeal of breast cancer. And then also breast reduction. As breast reduction is being viewed as a cosmetic operation, and we've been constantly battling to fight medical aids and also, try and change the perception of not only the medical aids but of everyone involved, that this is really a functional operation. Before I left for the UK, I offered, I do pro bono work that I started after I qualified. So I assist women with macromaster with very big breasts who cannot function and who cannot afford to be operated in the private sector and also in the public sector, because as you know, there's criteria that they have stipulated in our public sector that in order for you to have a breast reduction, you must have a specific criteria. And one of those is a BMI. So this lady is a domestic worker. Her BMI was high, and of course, socioeconomically, she couldn't afford to go to a gym or to go on expensive diets in order for her to lose weight. So she was battling for many years, and she was being rejected by the public sector. So this patient, there was no way that she can afford her operation as a domestic worker in the private sector. So I offered to do her operation on a pro bono based, and I took about 7 to 8 kgs of tissue, of breast tissue, and that changed her life. She has been constantly suffering from back pain, from migraines, from she was unable to do execute her work as a domestic worker. And after I did the operation, her life changed, and till today, she's forever grateful. She always sends me messages thanking me. And these are just few, one of the few success stories that I've had in my career. So yeah.
Wow. Dr. Bruce, I'm just finding myself so mesmerized. This is really a calling for you. I think I'm actually getting schooled, I must admit. When I first heard about reconstructive surgery, I really did think it was what we see on TV. It was about the beauty, the amplifying our beauty. That's what I really thought. But now you're here, you're telling us all these beautiful stories about how reconstructive surgery is really, really having an impact on all these people. Wow, this is so, so beautiful, right? And I think throughout your journey, you've come across challenges. So what have been the challenges, and how did you try to overcome them?
Well, I think, I come from a very humble background. My parents were both, are both teachers, with not much in terms of finances. And I grew up in a dusty rural place in the Eastern Cape with no formal supervision or guidance in terms of medicine. So throughout my life, I had to, I didn't have mentor, a formal mentor who can guide me towards what I really wanted to become. So that was a challenge on its own. And also financially, I mean, eh, going through medical school, it's a very expensive, you know, exercise. And so financially, it was very challenging for my parents. But fortunately, I had I had very determined parents and could see, my vision. They understood where I wanted to be in life, and I managed um, to overcome that financial obstacle because of the family support, and also because of how well I did in school. I ended up getting, funding through bursaries and so forth. So my hard work also contributed towards, my success in terms of overcoming the financial challenges. And then also, just the challenge in terms of getting into plastics, and also while I was in plastics, the challenges that I experienced through certain rotations because of my skin color. And then also, and also, I mean, even now, I'm still experiencing challenges because of my color, because I was previously viewed as a white dominated specialty. So till to date, I mean, currently I am trying to get into one of the private hospitals in Johannesburg, and I am being blocked because of my skin color to get in. So it is still a, a forever not ending challenges because of being an African black in the African continent. So despite despite getting offers from all over the world, I mean, I've had offers from the United Kingdom, from Ireland, from the UAE, New Zealand, uh, but I've opted not to take any of those offers because, like I said, my home is Africa, and I want to see the change and be part of that change in our African continent. So yes, the challenges are there. It's for me, it's all about the bigger picture and what I want to achieve at the end, and I'm not going to be deterred by any of those challenges.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. And I love the fact that you said you're envisioning a new Africa, or the reason why you're staying here is primarily for African purpose, right? So maybe just give us a little delve in into what does the new Africa look like to you? Perhaps it could be in the reconstructive area or just medicine in general. You are a doctor, so just shed light onto us. What do you think, or what do you envision as the new Africa?
What I envision as a new Africa, it's a united Africa where we work together as Africans, where there's no racial segregation or ethnic segregation, and where healthcare can be accessible to those who are marginalized, and where everyone can have access to the best healthcare systems that we can have in Africa. Africa has a lot of potential, and I envisioned an Africa where our leaders can change their perception about the Western world having the best best medical healthcare, where you found that our leaders, they will opt to go abroad to seek medical help instead of our own continent. And I wish that they can see the talent that Africa has and the potential, and they can change their perception and invest into their own, continent. And I wish that one day we can have centers of excellence across the continent where we can share our expertise, where we can freely train the young ones who aspire to be specialists, and to have centers of excellence where our African people can be proud of, and where we will compete, hand in hand with the first world. So that's the Africa I want to see. That's the Africa that I would love to be part of, because the talent is here. We produce the best doctors. It's just that we need to support them, and then we need you know, to give them resources and also open up opportunities. And 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 I wish that as Africans we can unite and support each other. If we can do that, I think as Africans, I think we can achieve a lot, a whole lot. If you can change the perception that the Western world, or the non-black are better, and can support your own, I think we can go very far as a country, very, very far as a continent. So that is the Africa that I dream of.
Thank you, Dr. Bruce. I've had conversations with a lot of people thinking about the new Africa. A lot of people it's come about in a lot of conversation, collaboration. We need to have more collaboration on the continent. A lot of people have a lot to say about Africa. Africa has all the talent, like you're saying. African talent is what's going to the abroad countries, right? We have this whole system in Africa where we could do everything for ourselves, but we're just failing. And I always ask this question: where do you think we're going wrong? What's Africa really doing so wrong? We have all this readily available to us, but we choose not to go forward, or we choose not to be the leader. We choose to always wait for this Western country to do things, and then we follow. Why do you think that is, though?
I think that it starts with our leadership. It starts all the way from the top. If we can have better leaders who can believe in our African continent and invest in our continent, then I think we can go far as a continent. So I think it starts with our leaders. If our leaders can believe into the African dream, and in supporting the African child, and not opt to go to or think that the Western world is better, then I think Africa will be able to stand up and nurture their own talent. So and also it goes back to the individuals also, that we need to support each other as Africans. And also I think if there can be collaborations between the public and the private sector, that will go a long way. That is what I saw happening in the United Kingdom. That because of the pandemic, there's there's a huge backlog in terms of operations, in terms of theaters. So the private and the public sectors, they've collaborated, and they're working hand in hand to fight the backlog. So if African can also adopt this concept as well, and not have such an expensive private healthcare, and make it more affordable to an average person, and also have collaborations between the private and the public sector, then I think we can go a long way in improving the lives of our African people.
Dr. Bruce?
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. I lost you there for a moment. So I stopped at it just started to buffer. Can you come again?
Yes, I'm still here.
I didn't get the last question. The internet just started to buffer.
Okay. You were asking me what I would, in terms of collaborations.
Yes.
Yes. So to sum it up, I said that I think it starts with our leadership. If they can change their perceptions and support the continent, and support the healthcare workers in Africa, and assist in building better hospitals and giving us better resources, and also if there can be collaborations between the private and the health and the private and the public healthcare system, then we can work hand in hand in dealing with the backlogs that the continent is facing, especially after this pandemic. And also that will also help to share the expertise, between the academic institutions and the private healthcare sector. And also if Africans, can support each other, then that will go a long way as well in supporting your own.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce, for that. Yes, I completely agree. Collaboration is really always the way, especially with the private and the public, right? So in Africa and in Botswana, yeah, this is what we're seeing. There's such a huge division between the private and the public sector that the public sector is really, really taking a lot of strain when it comes to healthcare. Like you just said, they wait in long queues. There's really a whole lot of backlog when you look at the public sector, but then they don't want to collaborate with the private sector. It's really such a problem here in Botswana. I don't know if that's the situation in South Africa, but in Botswana, that's how it is. That they don't do much public-private partnerships, but it's really well needed. It's really, really needed.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. It is the similar situation in our country, and I'm sure it's the same in many other parts of Africa. So, like I said, it is one of the key things that we need to have. Like I mentioned, that in the United Kingdom, that is what I saw, and that is one of the key strategies that they have in fighting the backlogs that they have, collaborations between the private and the public sector, and not only also for theater time and resources, but also for knowledge, for expertise to be, you can train more people by having exposure to the private sector. You can have, you'll have more facilities to train more specialists, for example, if there are such collaborations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. And I think another thing that I would ask is, you've been speaking so much, and I heard you speaking about the learning institutions, right? And I'm prompted to ask about the future generation or the youth. They're the ones who should really be inspired to go into such paths like reconstructive surgery and all these different paths. Do you think enough is being done actually to just sensitize the youth about the benefits of some of these career paths?
I don't think enough has been done. I think we still have a long way to go, especially in our field. Um, the exposure is not there. Like I said, as an undergraduate student, you are never exposed to plastics, and I think this is important that we need to educate the undergraduate students that there is a field of plastic and reconstructive surgery, which is an amazing field in you know in the discipline of medicine. uh, it's a very fulfilling field. We do so much. Like I had explained earlier on, there is a whole lot more into reconstructive surgery, and I would easily say it's probably one of the best jobs in the world. So yes, we do need to do more in educating our youth about our field.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. Sitting here with you, I think I've learned so much about reconstructive surgery. I think I have key takeaways that I can actually just tell somebody, reconstructive surgery is so much more than I thought. I won't mention names, but we see it on TV. The Americans, they do these breast implants, they do, but for them, it's more of a beauty enhancer. It's not really what you're doing, where it's more of a changing thing, like like what you mentioned when you guys separated the twins. All this is something. It's a dimension that I've never seen of reconstructive surgery for sure. I know I've never heard of this side of the story, so it's so exciting to actually sit down with you and get to hear this side of the story, right? So I don't know if you have any final words that you'd like to share with the audience, anything at all.
Well, my final words would be that let us unite as Africans. We have a beautiful continent. We have a continent with huge opportunities. We have a continent with a massive, opportunity for improvement. There is a huge potential in our continent. We just need to unite, support each other, and and stop going, packing our bags and moving to the first world, because things are not greener on the other side. You know, we have the best continent. We have the most friendliest people in Africa. We have the best food. We have the best weather, of which you won't find on the other side. So let us stay in our continent. Let us, support each other in different disciplines that we are in, so that we can each excel and pass, the knowledge and the talents to the younger generations, and and continue with the spirit of Ubuntu. Like Mandela said, we need to continue supporting each other and continue with the spirit of Ubuntu. I mean, I am who I am because of others. So I think if we can support each other, we can make this beautiful continent flourish. So those are my final words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. I think I'm really, really inspired because, like you said, you're from humble beginnings. Nothing was handed to you on a silver platter. You really worked for all of this. I think it gives us courage. It gives us hope as Black people. It gives us hope to say, you know what? If you work really hard, anything is attainable. I mean, look, you're the second plastic surgeon. Like, it's really, really inspiring. And I think I'm really, really inspired looking at your journey. This couldn't have been easy at all. And from what you've said, it was a really, really challenging journey, but it's the satisfaction that you get from each and every single patient. And the way you speak about your patients, you have this emotional connection to your patients, and it's just more than about the money for you. And I really love that. I really love that, especially when you're in a field like medicine. I'm absolutely thrilled to have had this conversation with you. I think it will be great and it will be enlightening to the viewers who tuned in. Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you for having me.